The bass thumped low in my chest as I leaned against the edge of the rooftop bar, nursing a watered-down cocktail and trying not to look as broke and out of place as I felt. LA was a dream, a very expensive, slightly disorienting dream, with overpriced drinks and conversations that sparkled like champagne but vanished in daylight. Adira slid into the seat beside me, her long braids swinging as she dropped her phone into her lap, and exhaled like she'd just come back from war.
Juliette, I swear to God, if I see one more cozy studio the size of a shoe closet with a $2,400 rent tag, I'm gonna throw hands.
I laughed, but it wasn't full. Not tonight. Not with the rent I couldn't afford and my dad's meds back in North Carolina weighing heavier than any cocktail ever could. Nothing decent? I asked, already knowing the answer. She sipped her drink, eyes narrowed.
Nope, not unless you're married.
I blinked. What?
Yeah.
She nodded.
This one complex in Echo Park has an opening. Beautiful, clean, gated, real hardwood floors.
And?
The owner only wants married couples.
She held up a finger.
But hear me out. There's a guy. He just moved here. He's also looking. Same problem.
I set my glass down slowly. Adira, no. I'm not pretending to be someone's wife just to split rent. That's a rom-com plot with a court case at the end. She grinned like she already knew she'd win.
It's LA. You're broke. He's broke. You don't even have to pretend in public. Just to the landlord. Come on, Jules.
I sighed, rubbing at the spot between my brows where stress liked to build a nest. And who exactly is this guy? She pulled out her phone, tapped a message.
Logan Blueridge, new hire in my department. Keeps to himself. Tall. Ridiculously hot. Like the kind of hot that makes you forget how to form complete sentences.
Great, I muttered. A hot stranger and fake marriage. What could go wrong?
Everything.
She said brightly.
Or it could be the start of a wild, beautiful mess.
10 minutes later, the club door swung open, and that wild, beautiful mess walked in. Easily 6'3" with a broad-shouldered, athletic build. He moved like he owned the air around him, quiet, confident, and just a little dangerous. Dark jeans, fitted black shirt, and the kind of jawline sculpted by very patient gods. He looked at me. Just once. Long enough to knock the breath out of my lungs.
Juliette,
Adira said, nudging me with a smirk.
Meet Logan.
He offered his hand. His voice was low, smooth.
Hey.
My fingers curled into his, warm and calloused. Hey. There was a beat. One of those thick, strange pauses where it felt like something started before either of us even said a word. Adira stood up.
I'm gonna grab another drink and leave you two to talk details.
I watched her go, then turned back to Logan, who hadn't stopped looking at me. He wasn't checking me out like most guys at clubs did. No, it was quieter. Sharper. Like he was trying to read something I hadn't written yet. So, I said, trying to shake off the heat climbing my neck. You looking for a fake wife, or just free rent? His lips twitched.
Little of both. You?
I'm just trying to survive this city. Something softened in his eyes.
Then maybe we help each other.
The music pulsed behind us, a blur of voices and light. But for that one moment it felt like the world narrowed just me, him, and a lie waiting to be told. Neon lights gliding across Logan's face as we settled into the booth. His presence next to me was quiet but heavy, like gravity was working overtime between us. How do we convince a landlord we're married? I asked, trying not to sound too nervous. He lifted his glass to his lips, his eyes locked on mine.
We learn each other's rhythms. What makes us tick, favorite food. How you like your coffee, if you talk in your sleep.
I snorted. I don't talk in my sleep. I kick though. Sometimes. A slow smile played on his lips.
Good to know. I'll take the left side of the bed.
Bed? I blinked. He leaned in slightly, voice low, playful.
You know, for the act.
I gave him a look. Let's get one thing straight. I'll sleep in my room. You'll sleep in yours. The only thing we're sharing is rent. He raised his hands in surrender.
Fair. But we'll need to look the part in front of the landlord. Old hands. Maybe a little PDA. Married couples don't exactly sit 6 feet apart like strangers in a waiting room.
I nodded, ignoring the flutter that sparked in my chest. We can manage that. We finalized the details over one more drink. No real names to the landlord, just Juliette and Logan Blueridge, newlyweds looking for a fresh start in LA. And in the morning we'd meet the man who'd unknowingly hold us to this lie. The next morning was one of those rare Los Angeles mornings where the sky looked washed in soft blues and golds. I stood in front of the apartment building on Westmore and 9th, smoothing my blouse and trying not to sweat through it. Logan stood beside me in a fitted gray tee and dark jeans, hair swept back, jawline clean-shaven. He looked like someone off the cover of a romance novel and smelled like expensive soap and forest after rain.
Ready?
He asked, sliding his sunglasses down just enough to catch my eye. As I'll ever be. The landlord, Philip, was a heavyset man in his 50s with salt and pepper stubble and the world's most skeptical squint. He didn't shake hands, just eyed us like we were late to something he wasn't even sure he'd invited us to.
You two married?
He asked, looking between us. Logan slipped his arm around my waist like he'd done it 1,000 times before.
Yes, sir.
Philip raised an eyebrow.
Got ID?
Logan pulled out a driver's license. I handed over mine. Just as he was flipping through the contract, a woman walked in with a tray of lemon water and a stare that could have cut glass. She was beautiful, older, polished, with ice blonde curls and red nails that matched her lipstick. Her eyes fell on Logan and didn't leave.
I'm Darcy,
she said, voice sugar-sweet with an edge.
Philip's wife.
Logan straightened a little beside me.
Nice to meet you.
Darcy smiled too wide.
The pleasure's all mine.
Her gaze slipped to his biceps, then his jaw. My stomach twisted. I should act like I am jealous. I moved just a fraction closer to Logan, sliding my hands to his arm. His body tensed against mine, but then eased as he looked at me. He knew it as a part of act. Philip cleared his throat.
Lease is for 1 year minimum. You break it, you pay the full term. No subletting. No pets. And I better not hear about any funny business.
We're solid.
Logan replied, voice calm. I nodded, forcing a smile. We're grateful for the opportunity. Darcy handed Logan a glass, brushing her fingers against his.
Don't hesitate to stop by if you need anything.
When we stepped outside, keys in hand, Logan exhaled sharply. She's gonna be a problem, I muttered.
She's not subtle.
He replied, running a hand through his hair. We stood in silence in front of our new home, two strangers with a year-long lie and a growing pile of complications. He glanced down at me, something unreadable flickering behind his blue eyes.
Still sure you want to do this?
I looked up at the 3-story apartment building with fake shutters and a bright red door, then back at the man I barely knew but was about to pretend to love. We don't have any other choice, I said. He gave me a half smile, one that held just enough heat to make me wonder if this lie might one day feel a little too real. The apartment door clicked shut behind us, and I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. The space was small but warm, exposed brick walls, creaky wooden floors, and a narrow hallway that smelled faintly of pine cleaner and someone else's cooking. Logan tossed his duffel down like he owned the place, and I stood there gripping my suitcase like it was a life vest in open water.
All right.
He said, running a hand through his hair, pushing it back with frustrating ease.
I've got to head out. First day at the LA office. Try not to burn the place down.
I arched a brow. Wow, confidence in me already. He smirked.
Don't change the locks while I'm gone.
Only if you're late on rent. We both laughed, the kind of easy, awkward chuckle that softened the space between two near strangers trying to play house. I cleared my throat, nudging the moment forward. Adira mentioned there's a job opening at a mansion nearby kitchen work, I think. I'm gonna check it out. Logan glanced over, halfway through buttoning his dress shirt.
You sure you're good heading there alone?
I walked toward my suitcase, flipping it open like I had a plan. I've handled worse. His eyes lingered a second too long. There was a flicker there, small, fast. Like he wanted to say something but didn't know if he should. Or maybe he didn't know how.
Text me if anything feels off.
He said finally, tugging his collar and rolling his sleeves like he was gearing up for more than just office work.
The people out there, they notice things.
I paused. How do you know? He looked up, steady and unreadable. Our eyes locked, and just for a breath, the air shifted. My stomach fluttered.
Just guessing.
He said. And just like that, he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him. I threw on a floral top, jeans, and pulled my hair into a half-messy, half-presentable bun. Lip balm, a spritz of perfume, and some classic fake-it-till-you-make-it energy. I was good to go. The mansion sat on a small hill a few blocks away, wrapped in winding ivy and surrounded by towering trees that whispered in the breeze. The place looked like it had secrets buried beneath every brick, and I was half expecting to see some ghostly figure peer out from behind one of the tall glass windows. I knocked on the iron gate and waited. A man in his late 50s, gruff beard, thick arms, the kind of presence that screamed former soldier, opened it and gave me a once-over. I'm here about the cook's position, I said, voice steady. The man, who I later learned was the beta of the house, grunted.
This position's been filled this morning.
Of course. My shoulders slumped, but I managed a polite nod. Thanks anyway. I turned to leave, trying not to look completely defeated. That's when a dark blue pickup rolled up the curved driveway and parked with a hard, impatient stop. The guy who stepped out was tall, golden-skinned with sun-drenched brown hair, and that kind of relaxed, earthy handsomeness you only see in old Americana magazines. He carried 2 grocery bags in each arm, a few guys trailing behind him with crates of fresh vegetables.
Where should I put these?
He asked, eyes landing on me instantly. I blinked. Kitchen? He grinned.
Got it.
He walked past me, brushing close enough that I caught a whiff of leather, cologne, and fresh citrus, basically every bad decision in a bottle. I trailed behind him, watching him unload groceries like it was an Olympic sport. The guy came back after a few minutes, wiping his hands on his jeans.
So you're Tyler's daughter, huh? Didn't know he had kids.
I hesitated. Yeah, long story. He smiled, easy and warm, and suddenly the tension in my shoulders loosened just a little.
Well, if you're anything like him, I'm gonna need you to teach me that banana bread recipe he raves about.
I let out a surprised laugh, awkward and light. We'll see. He lingered a second longer before leaving, tossing a wink over his shoulder. I must have knocked on at least a dozen doors that day. Fancy places. Dingy corners. Diners with neon signs that buzzed louder than the Friars. Nothing. Nada. Not even a "we'll call you." By the time I made it home, my feet were screaming and my patience was hanging by a thread. I pushed the apartment door open, already mentally preparing myself to heat up leftover noodles that tasted like cardboard sadness. But the second I stepped in, something hit me. Garlic. Rosemary. Butter. Actual butter, not the cheap imitation kind. And Logan was cooking. There he was, standing in front of the stove in a soft navy t-shirt that hugged his back like it had been sewn on. His sleeves were rolled up again. Why was that so unfairly attractive? He turned around, flashing that signature smirk.
Hey, you look like hell.
Thanks, I said, dropping my bag by the door. That's exactly what every unemployed girl wants to hear. He nodded toward the table.
Dinner's ready.
I blinked. Wait, you made food? For me? He shrugged, flipping something in the pan like it was nothing.
I figured you'd be hungry.
I dragged myself into the chair like gravity had doubled on me. You figured right. He placed a plate in front of me: pasta, garlic bread, roasted vegetables that didn't come out of a bag. I blinked again. Okay, seriously. Are you a secret chef or just trying to make me fall in love with you? He laughed under his breath.
Just being nice.
We ate with the ease of people who'd known each other longer than we had. Between bites, I told him about the jobs I didn't get, the receptionist who called me sweetheart like I was a lost toddler, and the grocery guy who thought I was someone's long-lost heiress. Logan smirked as I mimicked John's voice.
You. An alpha's daughter. I'm surprised the mansion didn't kick you out on sight.
Gee, thanks.
You're welcome.
The air between us felt warm and easy. I hadn't laughed like that in a long time. I almost forgot I was thousands of miles away from home with a sick father and no steady income. After dinner, Logan cleaned the dishes without being asked, another tick in the suspiciously perfect roommate column. When he was done, he leaned against the counter and said,
All right. I'm calling it. Good night.
Night, I said, stretching with a sigh as I headed toward the bedroom. I had just gotten comfy sheets pulled up, hair out of my face, phone set on Do Not Disturb when the door creaked open. I sat up. Do you not believe in knocking? Logan stood there, arms crossed, eyes flicking toward the bed like it was the last flotation device on the Titanic.
There's no second bed.
I blinked. No couch?
Hard as a rock. Might as well sleep on the sidewalk.
I looked at the queen-sized bed, then at Logan, then back at the bed. Oh my God, I groaned. Let's just tell Philip we need 2 beds. Logan raised a brow.
Right. And what do we say when he asks why a married couple needs 2?
I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I threw the covers back dramatically. Fine. But you get the edge, he smirked.
Deal.
We lay on opposite sides, the silence louder than before. I stared at the ceiling, suddenly hyper-aware of every breath he took. I could feel the warmth of him, even without touching. The bed wasn't small, but it sure didn't feel big enough. I snore, I lied, hoping to kill the tension.
I've slept beside worse.
He replied. I kick in my sleep.
I dodge fast.
I turned to face the wall, hiding the grin that snuck up on me. For someone I barely knew, he sure had a way of making the room feel less lonely. The sheets rustled as he adjusted, and I could feel the faintest brush of his knee against my leg, just enough to remind me he was real, and close, and for now. Fine in this made-up world we were pretending to live in. It was ridiculous. Awkward. Strange, but somehow beautiful. I woke to my phone buzzing against the nightstand, vibrating like it had a grudge. The screen glowed with an unknown number, and for a second I debated letting it ring. But something in my gut said, pick up. Hello? I croaked, my voice still buried in sleep.
Miss Juliette?
A man's voice came through, polite and to the point.
You applied at Green Pine Grocery 2 days ago. Can you make it in today for a quick interview?
My heart kicked. Yes, absolutely. What time?
9 sharp.
I checked the time. 7:46 a.m. I shot up. Oh crap. The bathroom door was closed. Steam rolled out from the crack beneath. Logan was already in there. Of course. I rushed over and banged on the door like my life depended on it. Logan. Please hurry. I've got an interview. His voice, lazy and amused, drifted through the door.
You sure it can't wait till I finish conditioning my hair?
Logan. I groaned. The door cracked open a moment later, and there he stood only in a towel. A thick, soft white one slung low on his hips. His chest was still damp, drops of water sliding down his collarbones. He had a toothbrush in his mouth, one hand combing back his wet hair. His muscles moved like they were sculpted for slow-motion scenes in movies. And I just stared. Like an idiot.
You done eyeing me like I'm breakfast?
He asked with a smirk, still brushing his teeth. I turned so fast I almost tripped over my own feet. You're blocking the sink, not modeling for GQ. He stepped aside, all too amused.
Whatever helps you sleep at night, Jules.
I snatched my stuff and locked the door behind me. My cheeks were on fire. I hated how smug he got whenever he caught me looking. But God, how was I not supposed to? That man was 6 feet of temptation wrapped in dry sarcasm and perfect bone structure. By the time I came out now half presentable in a blue blouse and black pants, Logan was already in the kitchen, flipping scrambled eggs in the skillet. I should have made breakfast, I said, slipping on my shoes near the counter.
I figured you'd be late.
He replied without looking up.
It's not a deal, Juliette. I just didn't want you passing out mid-sentence at your interview.
He served me a plate like it was no big deal, and I swear some part of me wanted to hug him, or kiss him, or both. Instead, I sat and scarfed down eggs while he tossed his bag over his shoulder.
You got this,
he said, heading for the door.
Go get him.
The grocery store was smaller than I expected, nestled between a dry cleaner and a coffee shop, with a hand-painted sign that read Green Pine Market in chipped gold letters. I walked in with my resume in one hand and anxiety in the other. And there he was, the same man from Tyler Moonvale's mansion. I'd come to know him as John Greystone. He stood at the edge of the drive, clean-cut and easy on the eyes, wearing a forest green button-down tucked into well-fitted khakis. The kind of outfit that said he cared, but not too much. His smile stretched wide the moment he saw me, warm and open like I was exactly who he'd been waiting for.
Well, look who it is.
He said, walking around the counter.
Tyler's daughter.
My heart skipped. I'm sorry, I started to correct him. But he clapped my shoulder like we were old friends.
You don't need an interview. You're already in. We could use someone sharp like you.
I wait, really? He chuckled.
You being who you are, I figured you'd know how to handle things around here. You're our new store manager.
I blinked, stunned. Just like that? He smiled.
Welcome aboard. You can start today if you want.
I smiled back, but something in my stomach twisted. He thinks I'm Tyler Moonvale's daughter. I wasn't. I was Juliette Reed, a broke, desperate girl faking a marriage and now, apparently, a fake legacy too. Still, I shook his hand. My palms were sweaty. Sure, I'll start today. The first few hours flew by training on the registers, walking the aisles, helping a woman who was searching for gluten-free pasta like her life depended on it. But the lie hung on my shoulders like a wet coat. And John was sweet. Too sweet. He'd occasionally smile at me from across the store. At one point, he brought me a bottle of water without asking.
You okay?
He asked, handing it over. I nodded. Yeah, just adjusting. He smiled.
You'll settle in. This place grows on you.
I forced a laugh, but I couldn't shake the voice in my head screaming, he thinks you're someone else. And worse, I had no idea how to fix it. By the time I got back to the apartment, the sun had dipped behind the buildings, painting the city in warm orange streaks. I walked into the smell of coffee and grilled cheese, Logan's version of a gourmet welcome home. He looked up from the counter.
You made it.
I got the job, I said, setting my purse down. His brows lifted.
That's amazing.
Yeah, except the guy who hired me thinks I'm the daughter of some werewolf royalty. He froze, sandwiched mid-air.
Wait, what?
It's a long story, I sighed. But I didn't correct him. I was too scared I'd lose the job. He set the plate down slowly.
So now you're lying to your landlord and your boss?
I'm 2 for 2, I muttered. We looked at each other, and for the first time, Logan smiled in that real way, not the sarcastic, smirky one.
You're unbelievable.
He said. You're just jealous of my networking skills. He laughed, deep and low.
Yeah, something like that.
We ate dinner, shoulder to shoulder, like two weirdos figuring out how to survive LA together. And even though everything felt like it could fall apart at any moment, I also felt like I wasn't doing it alone. It was almost golden hour when I stepped out of Green Pine Market, the sun low and soft, casting that honey-colored filter across the city that makes everything feel a little less broken. I was halfway across the sidewalk when I heard my name.
Juliette.
I turned to see John jogging toward me, tossing his apron into the back of his truck like he was in some kind of small-town romantic comedy.
I'll drop you.
He said casually, as if this was something we did every day. Oh, it's okay, I replied, brushing my hair behind my ear and smiling politely. I was gonna walk, maybe grab coffee on the way.
Nah.
He waved me off.
I've got a delivery near the mansion. It's on the way. Hop in.
Damn it. The mansion. I hesitated, knowing full well that John still thought I was Tyler Moonvale's daughter. That lie had snowballed faster than I could stop it. But I nodded anyway, too cornered to say no without making it weird. Sure, I said with a tight smile. Thanks. The drive was quiet at first, filled with the hum of the engine and the occasional breeze whipping through the half-open window. John glanced over a few times, smiling like he couldn't believe his luck, and I stayed busy staring out the window, counting streetlights and trying to calm the guilt gnawing at my chest.
You like working at the store?
He asked suddenly. I do, I answered, not really lying but not really telling the full truth either. It's simple. Peaceful.
You're good at it.
He said, eyes back on the road.
Smart. Got this calm energy. It's rare.
I didn't know what to say to that. Compliments always hit differently when they come from someone you're lying to. We pulled up in front of the mansion, its iron gate casting long shadows over the gravel path. I unbuckled quickly. Thanks for the ride, I said, opening the door. John leaned over slightly.
You want me to wait?
No, it's fine. I'll be good from here. He gave me a little two-finger wave.
All right then. See you tomorrow, Juliette Moonvale.
I winced inside at the name, waved back, and slipped through the gate. Once he drove off, I darted behind a row of tall rose bushes like some badly written spy. I crouched low until his truck disappeared from view, then stood up with a sigh and brushed dirt from my jeans. Living 2 lives was not on my bingo card, I muttered under my breath, stepping out from the shadows of Tyler's mansion like some bootleg Cinderella. My phone buzzed. Logan.
You're late.
He said as soon as I picked up. His voice was casual, but something about the way he said it made me feel warm in places I shouldn't. I had to hide, I said, pacing down the cracked sidewalk. John thinks I'm Tyler's daughter, so he dropped me off at the mansion. I waited until he left.
You walked out after he left?
Yeah, but it's hard getting a taxi from this side of the street. I'm just walking back.
You're walking?
He repeated, his tone shifting.
Alone? At dusk?
I'm fine, Logan.
I'll be there in 10. Don't move.
15 minutes later, I heard it. The low rumble of a motorcycle engine humming like thunder in the distance. And then I saw him. Logan, pulling up in black jeans, a dark-fitted tee, and a leather jacket that looked like it had lived a few stories. His hair was windswept, he looked like a superhero riding straight out of trouble. He parked, took off his helmet, and held it out to me without a word. You ride a motorcycle? I asked, eyeing the sleek black machine.
You think I was gonna Uber?
I laughed, nerves jittering in my chest as I took the helmet and slid it on.
Hop on.
He said, his voice lower now. That playful edge gone. I climbed on behind him, hands hovering awkwardly before settling on his shoulders.
You're gonna have to hold tighter than that,
He said over his shoulder.
unless you want to fly off at the next turn.
Don't tempt me. I wrapped my arms around his waist, trying not to notice how solid he felt under my palms, how warm his back was through that jacket. The bike roared to life, and we sped off, the wind rushing past us like laughter in the dark. There was something about that ride, something I couldn't explain. The closeness, the speed, the way he leaned into the turns and I leaned with him, trusting him without a single word. His body moved like he was born to ride, steady and strong, and mine fit against him like I belonged there. It felt reckless. It felt safe. It felt like something was changing. His scent, clean cedar and something deep and wild, filled every breath I took. Then the trees started closing in. The road narrowed. The street lamps became fewer, just woods now, dark and whispering. Logan slowed the bike a little, his shoulders tense. That's when I saw them. Eyes, low to the ground. Dozens of them, reflecting the headlights' beam like shards of amber glass. Logan? I whispered, barely audible over the engine.
I see them.
He muttered, voice low and hard. Wolves, a whole pack. No collars, no leashes, no fear. They stalked the road's edge like they were waiting for something or someone. One darted into the road. Logan swerved hard, his grip flexing tight on the handlebars. I held tighter to him, heart slamming against his back. I felt it stutter when a growl tore through the trees.
Hold on.
He hissed, kicking up the speed. We burst out of the woods toward the edge of the main road, just as the red glow of a traffic light caught us. That's when it happened. From the shadows, something enormous lunged out. Before I could scream, before I could even blink, I was airborne. Yanked off the bike like a rag doll, the wind knocked from my lungs. I hit the ground hard, no, not the ground, fur, teeth. A wolf, bigger than the rest. It had me in its jaws, not crushing, but holding. Like it knew exactly how much pressure to use to make me freeze in panic. I heard Logan shout behind me. Tires screeched. The bike skidded. Then everything blurred. Trees again. Darkness. Leaves brushing my arms. My feet dragged against the forest floor as the wolf carried me deeper and deeper into the woods. I kicked, twisted, hit its sides. Nothing. Finally, it dropped me. My back hit the dirt with a dull thud. I scrambled up just as a howl split the silence. Then they came. From behind trees. From underbrush. From shadows I didn't know were there. Wolves, at least 10 of them, formed a wide circle around me. They moved slowly, deliberately, closing in like a noose tightening. My breath came fast and shallow. My hands trembled. My entire body screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. The wolf that took me stood at the center, chest rising and falling, eyes locked on mine like he was waiting for something. I took a shaky step back, and he growled. I didn't care. I don't know what the hell you want from me, I said aloud, voice shaking. But I'm not going down without a fight. I balled my fists. Another wolf lunged. I ducked, rolled to the side, my knee scraping open on a rock. Pain shot up my thigh, but adrenaline swallowed it whole. Another leapt at me, and I flung a stick, pointless but instinctive. And then, a sound ripped through the woods. A different howl. Deeper. Sharper. It froze them. It froze me. From the road, bursting through the tree line like some kind of supernatural force, came a white wolf. Huge. Luminous under the moonlight. Bigger than all the others. His fur shimmered with streaks of silver, his eyes, God, those eyes burned a bright, unnatural blue. Every other wolf backed up. Except the one that took me. He growled, low and defiant. The white wolf launched. What happened next was a blur of snarls, teeth, and fury. I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. They moved so fast, like storms colliding. Blood hit the leaves, snaps of bone echoed in the trees. And the others? They didn't join. They just watched, trembling, submitting. I fell to my knees. My hands dug into the dirt, eyes locked on the chaos. The pain in my leg finally caught up to me. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Then, silence. The white wolf stood, tall and unshaken, over the limp form of the one who took me. And then he turned. Those blue eyes locked onto mine, my chest constricted. Something in me knew. Before I could make sense of it, darkness folded around me. And I passed out, the scent of cedar and smoke still lingering in the air, just like him. My eyes fluttered open to a dim, amber haze flickering across the ceiling. For a split second, I didn't know where I was. My head throbbed, and my thighs stung like I'd been dragged through thorns. Then the scent hit me, cedar, smoke, and something warm I couldn't name. Logan. I turned slightly and winced. He was sitting at the edge of my bed, bare-chested, hair damp from sweat or maybe a quick shower, a white towel tucked into the waistband of his joggers. His chest glistened under the lamp light, a faint slash of a claw mark trailing from his collarbone to just above his heart. He was focused, quiet, dabbing a cloth soaked in something herbal against the scrapes on my upper thigh. "Logan," I whispered, my voice raw. "Are you okay?" He didn't flinch, just nodded once without looking at me. I sat up slowly, clutching the blanket to my chest. "You're hurt." His hand paused midair, and for a moment he still didn't meet my gaze.
I am fine.
That was a lie. The bruises blooming along his ribs, the scratches on his back, I knew a brawl when I saw one. Whatever happened in those woods last night, it was life or death. And somewhere deep inside me I knew. "You saved me," I said, barely breathing the words. "You were the white wolf." His jaw flexed, but still he stayed silent. I didn't press. I couldn't. Not when his hands were trembling slightly, not when he looked like he'd carry this secret to his grave. Instead, I whispered, "Thank you." He finally glanced up at me, his eyes deep gray. Stormy held so much and gave nothing away.
You should rest.
I nodded and let the silence settle between us like a blanket stitched with all the things we weren't saying. By morning, the soreness had set in like concrete in my limbs. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. "John." I hesitated before picking it up. "Hey," I croaked.
Juliette?
His voice was a mix of concern and curiosity.
You didn't show up for work.
"Sorry. There was a wolf attack." He was silent for a beat.
A what?
"Yeah, I'm fine now. Just some scratches."
Jesus. Do you want me to come over?
No, I rushed, suddenly hyper-aware of the shirtless man who had just stepped out of the bathroom behind me. "I'm good. Really, just gonna rest,"
Okay, but if you need anything, just call me.
he said. "Yeah, sure." When I looked up, Logan was staring at me, his jaw clenched.
That was John.
I nodded, curling my fingers into the bedsheet. He didn't reply, just stared out the window, like the skyline might give him answers. But something shifted in him, something sharp, unsettled, something close to worry and jealousy. I stood, wrapping the throw blanket tighter around my waist. Well, thanks to a wolf who won't even admit he's the one who saved me. That landed like a punch. He didn't speak. I walked past him, letting my shoulder graze his just enough to feel the tension in the air. "It's okay if you don't want to explain everything," I said softly. "Just tell me this. Should I be scared? living in the same room, pretending to be a couple? I didn't realize I was holding my breath until Logan's hand wrapped around my wrist. It wasn't rough but firm, unmistakably possessive. He turned me toward him, eyes dark, brows drawn low. The hallway light flickered above us, humming like it had something to say too.
You tell me,
He said, voice low but heated.
if someone came to hurt you, do you think he would fight for you?
I froze. No, I said quietly, and I meant it. Logan stepped in, close. Too close. I could feel his breath on my lips, warm and a little uneven. His jaw clenched, his eyes dropped to my mouth, then back up. For a second I thought he might kiss me. But he didn't. He pulled back like it burned him, then turned away fast, yanking his shirt from the back of the chair and buttoning it up like he needed the layers between us.
I'll come back at 9.
He muttered, grabbing his keys.
Just text me if you need anything.
I nodded. I couldn't trust my voice. Then he was gone. It had been 3 days since the wolf attack. The bruises on my thigh had started to fade, but the ache lingered in places I couldn't point to, like a phantom pain in the chest. Logan had barely left the apartment, and when he did it was only to pick up supplies. But this morning, his phone buzzed with a call from the office. I could hear his boss yelling through the receiver, and before he could argue, I placed a hand on his chest and said gently, "You should go. I'll be fine." I caught myself watching him when he wasn't looking. The way his broad shoulders moved when he stretched. The tension in his jaw when he stood by the window too long. The way he'd glance over at me with a softness that lingered a second too long before he looked away. It wasn't just me noticing things either. Darcy had been around too often lately. Philip, our owner's wife. I'd caught her staring at him. Not just glancing. Staring. She looked at Logan like he was something hot off the grill and she hadn't eaten in weeks. Those eyes of hers? They didn't just look, they undressed him. Every time. And God, she wasn't even trying to be subtle about it. Not even a little bit. Her voice turned into a purr when she talked to him. She'd laugh at things he didn't even say. And Logan, to his credit, tried to stay as neutral as possible, but he was too polite, too cornered, and too shirtless. God. I tried not to care. Just kept ignoring until that evening. That evening, I realized we were out of basics: eggs, coffee, some vegetables. Anything that make this place feel a little normal again. I pulled on a faded blue sundress and slipped into sneakers. The market was quiet. The sun was dipping low, coloring the sky like spilled rose. I walked slow, dragging out the return. But the moment I turned the corner and saw our building, a strange twist of anxiety coiled in my gut. Something was off. I climbed the stairs 2 at a time, grocery bags in hand. The apartment door was cracked open. I froze. "Logan?" I called, gently nudging it open with my shoulder. What I saw rooted me to the floor. Darcy was in our apartment. She was standing too close to Logan. She held a small folded piece of paper in one hand, like a love letter. Her other hand hovered mid-air, fingers almost brushing the fabric over Logan's chest. And Logan? He wasn't moving. His arms were pinned behind him, palms flat against the wall. His jaw clenched tight, eyes shut like he was waiting for it to pass, like he was stuck in a moment he didn't want to be in. Darcy was just inches away from kissing him. I cleared my throat. Loud. Darcy spun around like I'd splashed cold water on her. Her smile was tight, fake.
"Oh, Juliette, didn't hear you come in."
I walked in slowly, setting the bags on the counter. "Yeah, I can see that." Logan opened his eyes. Relief. Sharp and sudden. Like I'd just saved him from drowning. Darcy cleared her throat and walked past me toward the door.
"Just stopped by to say hi. Logan dropped something."
She waved the piece of paper like it meant nothing. I didn't respond. just watched her leave. The door clicked shut behind her, and silence filled the space between us. "What the hell was that?" I asked, folding my arms. He looked down, ran a hand through his hair.
She found something.
"What, your will?" He gave a small, dry laugh and pulled a folded paper from his back pocket.
A letter. I was writing, something personal. I left it out. She must have read it and assumed.
"What kind of letter, Logan?" He hesitated, then looked at me. Really looked.
I was writing a proposal.
I blinked. "To her?" He looked up sharply.
No, God, no. That's what she thought. That's the problem.
I blinked. "Then who was it for?" He didn't answer. His silence said more than words could have. I let out a breathy laugh to cover the heat rising to my cheeks. "Well, you two look cute. Maybe it's fate,"
Don't joke.
he said, scrubbing a hand over his face.
Juliette, you don't get it. You saw the look in her eyes. You saw how she cornered me. This isn't the first time she's tried to make a move. I've tried being polite, but I didn't invite her in. She just walked in herself.
"Maybe don't be so charming next time," I muttered. He grinned just a little.
That's the problem. She doesn't care. She thinks I'm into her.
His eyes lit up as he looked at me.
But you can help me.
My brow lifted. What kind of help?
The next time she shows up, I need you to kiss me.
I choked on a laugh. "Excuse me?" He stepped closer, desperate now.
Just once. Just enough to convince her that we're really together. That I'm off limits.
"I can't kiss you in front of her, Logan. That's crazy,"
Please, Juliette.
he said, voice low.
I'm just asking you to help me get her off my back.
I stared at his mouth. At the way his lips moved when he said my name. At the faint bruise still fading on his jaw from the wolves. At the way his eyes always searched my face like he was memorizing it. "God help me," I nodded. "One time, Logan. Just once." He smiled, a slow, grateful curve that made my knees feel untrustworthy.
That's all I need.
But deep down we both knew it wouldn't be just once. The apartment was quiet that morning, except for the distant hum of the city and the patter of soft rain tapping against the windows like a heartbeat trying to break in. I stood by the kitchen island, barefoot, wrapped in one of Logan's oversized flannels. The coffee machine hissed behind me, but my mind wasn't on caffeine. It was on him. I could hear the shower cut off. The bathroom door creaked open, and then Logan stepped out, steam rolling behind him like he'd walked straight through a dream. His chest glistened, water trailing down every defined line of muscle, a white towel slung low on his hips, dangerous and shameless. His dark hair dripped onto his collarbones, and his eyes gray, intense, half-lidded from the heat, found me instantly. I froze, coffee forgotten.
Morning.
He said, voice rough and unshaven. He stepped closer, eyes not leaving mine. I swallowed. Morning. He stopped in front of me, close enough to feel the heat still radiating from his skin.
You're wearing my shirt.
He murmured, voice like sandpaper and silk. One hand slid around my waist, then lower, fingers pressing into my hips like he was grounding himself or losing control. Logan.
She is here.
He whispered. And the next moment his lips crashed against mine. It wasn't soft, it wasn't careful. It was heat and hunger and something deeper, something we hadn't dared name. His hands lifted me like I weighed nothing, placing me gently on the edge of the kitchen counter. The cold marble against the back of my thighs made me gasp. His mouth was on mine again, and this time I kissed him back like the world was ending. Because in a way it was. Ours always felt like borrowed time. I barely noticed the door click open. But Logan did, his body tensed, just for a second, before he pulled me impossibly closer, his mouth urgent, hands roving down my back. My eyes fluttered open through the haze, and there she was. Darcy. Standing in the doorway, her hair tied back tight, her eyes locked on us like we were something filthy on glass. Her fists were clenched, jaw set so hard I thought it might crack. She didn't say a word. Just stood there, fire burning in her stare. I could have pulled away, could have stopped it. But I didn't. I deepened the kiss. Logan's hand cupped the side of my face, the other sliding over the curve of my waist, fingers brushing bare skin beneath the flannel. His mouth moved down, tracing the line of my jaw, then to my collarbone, open-mouthed kisses that made me grip the back of his neck, trembling. "She's watching," I whispered against his ear. He didn't stop. His lips were hungry, worshipping, like he was trying to burn the memory of her away with every touch. "Logan," I said again, breathless. "She's gone." That's when he finally heard me. His body stilled, his head dropping against my shoulder, breath warm and shaky against my skin.
Damn.
He muttered.
I wasn't thinking.
I ran my fingers through his damp hair, my chest still rising and falling like I'd run a mile. "It's okay," I said, quietly. But we both knew it wasn't just about the act. The kiss, the way he looked at me like I was his gravity that wasn't part of any act. That was raw. That was real.
I'm sorry.
He whispered again, pulling back just enough to meet my eyes. "It's okay," I said. But somewhere deep down we both knew this wasn't pretend anymore. That evening John called me. His voice was easy, warm.
Well, there's this thing tonight. At the club. Just some coworkers, drinks, nothing crazy. You in?
"Sure," I said. "Yeah, I'll come."
Cool. I'll pick you up at 7.
After I hung up, I looked up from the phone and froze. Logan was already staring at me from across the room. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, those storm-gray eyes were sharp. Watching, waiting. Like he'd heard every word.
That was John.
He asked. I nodded, curling my fingers into the bedsheet. He invited me to a small party. Nothing big. His lips pressed into a flat line.
Are you sure you're up for it?
I shrugged. I have to. He is my boss. He didn't reply. Just stared out the window, like the skyline might give him answers. But something shifted in him, something sharp, unsettled, something close to worry and jealousy. "You don't trust him," I said quietly. He finally looked at me.
I don't know him.
He said.
And we can't trust anyone after what happened that night. You almost died, Juliette.
I'll be careful.
Fine. I'll come pick you up at 9.
He muttered, grabbing his keys.
Just text me the name of the club.
I nodded. I couldn't trust my voice. Then he was gone. The door clicked shut behind him, and all I could hear was my heartbeat crashing around in my ribs. I didn't dress for John. I didn't dress for Logan either. I dressed for me. Maybe it was reckless, but I wanted to feel something other than confused. Something sharp, dangerous, alive. The black satin dress clung to me like it knew how I felt. Short enough to catch looks, tight enough to silence words. I slipped on heels, painted my lips, and told myself it was just a night out. I took a cab to Tyler's mansion. John came a few minutes later, dressed like he was trying too hard but charming all the same. He looked me up and down.
Wow. You clean up nice.
I laughed, brushing it off. Just wanted to blend in with the LA scene. He opened the car door like a gentleman.
Well, the scene's gonna have a hard time keeping up with you tonight.
I smiled, but something about it felt hollow. The club pulsed with bass and neon lights, packed with noise and heat. John took my hand like it was nothing and led me to a corner table. He ordered drinks, too many, too fast, and tried to impress me with stories that felt just a little too rehearsed. I laughed anyway, because I didn't want to ruin this job. But then they walked in, Logan and Adira. He looked like Sin dressed in black, sharp jaw, shirt fitted just enough to tease. His eyes scanned the room once before they locked on me, then on John's hand around mine. Adira smiled and hugged me. John leaned in.
Who's he?
I hesitated. Adira's colleague. The lie felt like a punch in my own chest. Logan didn't say a word, but the look on his face, God, it burned. He took a drink straight from the bar, something strong, and tossed it back like water. Then another. Adira whispered something to him. He shook his head, jaw locked tight. I turned back to John, pretending none of it bothered me. We danced. He was too touchy. Too close. I let him. Because I didn't want to feel what I was feeling. But Logan never stopped watching. His stare tracked me through the strobe lights, through every sway of my hips, through every time John's hand slid too low on my waist. And then it happened. John spun me too fast, pulling me into his chest, lips dangerously close to mine. Before I could react, Logan was there. He shoved John back, not hard, but hard enough to make a scene. His eyes were glassy, unfocused, and that's when I knew he is completely intoxicated.
She's not yours to touch.
Logan snapped. John stumbled.
And who the hell are you?
You don't need to know.
Logan said through gritted teeth. He didn't even look at me when he took my hand and started dragging me out. Logan. I yanked free. What are you doing? I'll lose my job. He turned on me, voice rising.
Did you not see how he was touching you?
So what? It's none of your business, Logan. His chest heaved.
None of my business?
Till then I was shaking, from the anger. I grabbed his shirt, my fists curled tight, shaking him hard enough to snap him out of the fog of whiskey. We're pretending, remember? We're not married. Don't mistake me for your wife. He looked down at me, his eyes hurt, wild, stormy searched my face. And I ran. Back inside. Back into the noise and heat and confusion. The music inside the club thumped like a heartbeat I couldn't quiet. My heels tapped against the glossy floor as I walked back in, my pulse still racing from the mess outside with Logan. I wasn't sure if it was anger or guilt or something worse, something that felt a lot like heartbreak. John spotted me right away. He pushed off the wall, brushing past two coworkers, eyes locked on mine like I was the only person in the room.
Hey, who was he?
He asked, voice low, like he didn't want to share me with the noise. I hesitated for a beat too long.
Doesn't seem like just a coworker of your friend.
His brows were furrowed, jaw clenched. I forced a smile I didn't feel. He's also the beta of our pack, I lied smoothly, praying my face didn't give me away. Adira's mentor at work. John stared at me for a second longer, like he was trying to read between the lines. Then he nodded, just once, and reached for my hand.
Come with me.
He led me through the crowd to the back hall, dimly lit, away from the loud music and the people we both didn't care about right now. His fingers grazed my lower back, his touch a little bolder than usual, a little more sure of itself. We stopped just beside the velvet-draped wall, and before I could think of something to say, John leaned in. His lips found mine, firm and hot and searching. He tasted like whiskey and questions. His hand cupped my jaw gently, and I could feel the tension in his fingers like he was pouring all the confusion and want into that one kiss.
I think I'm falling for you.
He murmured against my mouth. My breath caught. I didn't kiss him back. I didn't pull away either. I just stood there, frozen between the lips of one man and the memory of another. When I finally peeled myself away, I didn't say a word. I just nodded, thanked him for the ride, and took a cab home. The apartment was quiet when I opened the door. The kind of quiet that hums beneath your skin. I walked into the bedroom and stopped in the doorway. He was curled on the edge of the bed, Logan, 6'3" of muscle and untold stories, his back to me. Shoulders bunched tight, spine pulled into a knot like he was barely holding himself together. One arm tucked under his head, the other loose by his side. His shirt was gone, his jeans sat low on his hips. And every rise and fall of his breath felt like it had weight slow, deep, worn out. The dim light from the hallway cut across his body, making shadows crawl over his back. And even in the stillness I could feel the tension rolling off him like heat waves off asphalt. I stood frozen at the door. My chest felt too small for my lungs. What the hell just happened? I walked to the bathroom. My bare feet padded against the wood floor, and I shut the door behind me like I needed it to buffer me from everything outside. The mirror was cruel. My mascara had smudged under my eyes. My lips were still swollen from him, from the kiss. That kiss. I didn't look strong, or in control, or like a woman who had it figured out. I looked wrecked. Quietly, I peeled off my dress, the one I'd worn for the club. The tight red one that used to make me feel powerful. Now it just felt like armor I didn't earn. I changed into one of Logan's oversized t-shirts, gray and soft, one I'd stolen from his drawer last week when I couldn't sleep. Pulled on a pair of loose black shorts. No makeup, no perfume, just raw and real and utterly confused. I walked back out. He hadn't moved. I slid into the bed, careful not to let my skin touch his. I stayed on my side, facing away, hugging the blanket to my chest like it could keep me from falling apart. The silence was unbearable, like the whole room was holding its breath. Then, I whispered, "What was that, Logan?" He didn't answer. So I tried again, voice shaking now. I could have lost my job. Still nothing. I rolled over and faced his back. My fingers twitched at my side, wanting to touch him but not daring to. "Why did you do that?" My throat burned. Why? He didn't turn around, but I saw his shoulders stiffen. He let out a long, uneven breath like the words he needed to say were caught in his chest, fighting to come out. Then, slowly, painfully, he moved. He sat up, muscles flexing. His head dropped into his hands for a second. Then he turned and looked at me. And just like that, my whole world went still. His eyes were glassy, tired, drunk. But behind the haze, they burned with something fierce and haunted. He leaned over me, bracing himself on either side of my arms. His body caged mine in without touching.
Do you really want to know?
He said, voice rough like gravel.
Why it bothered me so much?
I nodded, frozen, heart thudding in my ears. His jaw tightened. He looked like he was battling something deep, raw. Then he crashed, not with anger, with desperation. His lips found mine hot and rough and unyielding. His kiss was breathless, like he was pouring every answer into it. Like the words he couldn't say were hiding there between our mouths. And I didn't fight it. I couldn't. My hands found his jaw, then his hair, fingers twisting as he angled deeper. His tongue swept into my mouth, tasting like whiskey and regret, and something dangerously close to love. I let out a soft sigh against him, my body arching into his without thinking.
I love you, Juliette.
He whispered against my cheek, breath trembling.
God, I've tried not to. I've tried to keep this clean, but I can't anymore.
His voice cracked on the last word, and then his lips were trailing down my neck, slow and open-mouthed. Wet. Starved. He kissed my collarbone like it was holy, like he'd been dreaming of it and finally had permission to touch. I didn't even realize I was crying until his lips brushed the edge of my jaw and caught the tear. He pulled back, just enough to look at me. His hand pushed my shirt off my shoulder in one fluid motion, like it offended him.
You want this too, don't you?
He asked, voice low, eyes searching mine. I didn't answer with words. I reached down, found the buttons on his jeans and popped the first one. Then the second. And nodded. Something shifted in him, something primal and urgent. He let out a groan and picked me up like I weighed nothing, throwing my legs over his shoulder in one heated, hungry move. My back hit the mattress, soft and sinking beneath me. He hovered above, eyes locked on mine as his mouth returned to mine, wet and needy, like he was memorizing every inch. My hands slipped under his shirt, nails dragging across his spine. We weren't careful. We weren't gentle. We were starved. The rain started to fall outside, soft at first, then harder, drumming against the window as thunder rolled far away. But it couldn't touch us here. Not in this moment. Every touch was a confession. Every kiss was a promise we weren't ready to say out loud.
Jesus,
He muttered.
you're so damn beautiful it hurts.
He explored every part of me like it was sacred ground. My legs wrapped around his hips. My hands tangled in his hair. And when he finally pushed against me, slow and deep, both of us gasped. All the unsaid, all the jealousy, all the tension, all the wanting poured out in every movement, every breath, every groan, every whisper of my name on his lips. He moved slow, at first measured, careful, his forehead pressed to mine. Our eyes locked, fingers entwined. Then faster, harder. The sound of our bodies moving together filled the room, loud over the storm. My breath caught on every move, every kiss that followed, every sound he pulled from my mouth. He held me like I was breakable, loved me like I wasn't. And when we shattered together, it felt like we'd been waiting for this moment since the first lie we told. Afterward, he didn't move. Just stayed there, still on me, his chest pressed to mine. His breath was warm against my shoulder. The quiet of the apartment wrapped around us like a secret, too delicate to break. Logan's body was so close, his heartbeat steady beneath my fingertips. I could still feel the ghost of his lips on my skin. His touch had lingered, even now in the hush between us. Then his voice broke through the silence.
I don't want to pretend anymore.
He whispered against my temple. His arm curled around me tighter. My breath caught. I turned slightly to see his face bare, vulnerable, like he'd just dropped all his armor. What? He sat up slowly, back against the headboard, running his fingers through his dark, tousled hair.
I should have told you sooner. I didn't know how to say it without you running the other way.
My heart thumped, unsure whether to leap or retreat. Say what?
I'm the heir of the Blueridge pack.
He said finally.
The next alpha.
For a moment I just blinked. The words didn't fully register. I felt like I'd been dropped into someone else's fairy tale. Wait, what? Logan nodded, watching me closely.
My father's the alpha. He arranged a marriage for me with someone I barely know. It was political. It's always political in our world, but I didn't want a mate for power. I want a wife I actually love. Someone who loves me back. That's why I ran. That's why I'm here.
My stomach twisted. He looked down.
That night in the woods, the wolves that attacked us, they were my own pack. They were looking for me. They thought you were the girl I ran away with.
His jaw tightened.
They wanted to bring us back. By force if they had to.
I sat up then, pulling the blanket around me, heart hammering against my ribs. So you're saying they'd hurt me? Just to get to you?
I wouldn't let them.
He said firmly.
I'd die before I let anyone touch you.
The weight of everything hit me like a tidal wave. His world, his truth was too big, too dangerous. I was just me. A girl from nowhere with a sick father and overdue bills. And he was the heir of a secret kingdom, haunted by duty and hunted by his own. I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. I laid there beside him, his back warm against mine, and stared at the ceiling. My brain kept looping through the same questions. How long until his pack found him again? Would I ever be safe with someone like him? Could I love a man who came with so many shadows? And what about John? John, the man who gave me a job when I had nothing. Who looked at me like I was already his. He didn't come with danger, he came with stability. Maybe he was a little too touchy, a little too casual with boundaries, but he was safe, predictable, and maybe, just maybe, he was the better option. If someone wants to call me selfish, fine, let them. But I can't afford to lose this job. Not when I'm the only child. Not when my dad needs me the most for his meds, for the bills, for holding our home together when everything else is falling apart. By the time the morning sun spilled through the window, I'd made up my mind. I slipped out of bed before Logan woke and stood in front of the mirror, brushing my hair like it mattered. I didn't feel beautiful. I felt hollow. But I needed to play my part. Logan stepped into the doorway, shirtless, still groggy, rubbing his eyes.
Morning, honey.
He said softly, walking over to press a kiss to my forehead. I turned my cheek so he barely caught my skin. Morning, I said, forcing a light tone. Listen, about last night. He tilted his head, sensing the shift in my energy immediately.
Yeah?
I think it's best if we forget it happened. His brow furrowed.
What are you talking about?
I looked down at the floor. It was a moment. That's all it was. We got caught up in something that doesn't make sense. I have a job now. A future. I can't risk that.
But Juliette.
I cut him off gently, before his voice could crack. John's a good man. I don't want to lead him on.
And I'm not.
That's not what I said, I whispered. His mouth opened like he wanted to say more, but nothing came out. He just stood there, eyes dark, like I'd knocked the air out of him. Then he took a step back.
Right.
He muttered, his voice tight, holding back too much.
But think. Juliette. What if we went to the pack, got married for real? I'd be Alpha, you'd be my Luna.
I blinked hard, swallowing the ache. I'm human, Logan, I said, my voice catching. I can't risk everything for a wolf. His hand shot up desperate, angry, his fingers trembling in the space between us. His eyes were glossy, not just with rage but something raw.
You don't love me.
He choked out.
Then why did you say yes? Juliette, why the hell did you give your consent?
My breath hitched. I looked away, out the window where the city lights blurred through the glass. Because I wanted it too, I whispered. I wanted you.
That's it.
He asked, voice rising.
No connection? No bond between us?
That's it, Logan, I said quietly, turning to face him with wet eyes and a breaking heart. He didn't argue, didn't fight back. Just clenched his jaw and walked away, vanishing into the kitchen like he couldn't bear to be in the same room. I stood there, trying not to cry. Trying not to admit that the taste of his kiss still lingered on my lips. That I'd just lied to the one man who made me feel like I was home. Days flew. This morning I could still smell the coffee in the air, freshly brewed, just the way I liked it, with a hint of cinnamon. He'd made it for me. The scrambled eggs on the plate were still warm, and the toast had that perfect golden edge. But Logan was gone. Again. I stood in the middle of the kitchen wearing one of his old flannel shirts oversized on me, sleeves bunched at my wrists, and stared at the empty chair across from mine. The silence wasn't just quiet, it was loud. Loud in that way heartbreak never announces itself, it just lingers. He hadn't said good morning, hadn't even looked me in the eye when he walked out the door. The chair creaked when I sat. My fingers brushed the edge of the coffee mug he'd poured. Still warm. Still thinking of me. But he was already gone. The whole day at work felt off. John was buzzing with this soft, goofy energy, chatting with customers, laughing with the staff, and I really did, to smile back. To match his warmth. But every time I did, it felt like I was covering up bruises with makeup. Late in the afternoon, he handed me a small gift bag. blue tissue paper peeking out like it had a secret.
Open it when you get home.
He said, grinning like a high schooler before prom. I smiled, nodded, said thank you, but something twisted in my chest. Because John was sweet. And Logan was something else entirely. When I got home, the apartment felt colder, empty. The lights were off and Logan wasn't back yet. I placed the gift on the coffee table but didn't touch it again. It sat there like a question I didn't want to answer. I cooked dinner, even though I wasn't hungry, stirring the pot slowly, aimlessly, watching the steam curl up like ghosts. I thought about texting him. Just a simple "where are you?" Or even "are you okay?" But I didn't. Instead, I left the food on the table untouched and curled up on the bed, my knees to my chest, waiting for the sound of the door. It was nearly midnight when the key finally turned. I didn't move, just closed my eyes and let my breathing go soft, shallow. Pretending sleep felt easier than pretending everything was okay. I heard the door click shut, his keys drop into the bowl, the faint rustle of his jacket coming off. His footsteps stopped near me. I felt him standing there, watching me. I could feel the heat of his body, the way he lingered like he was about to say something. My heart pounded. But he said nothing. He turned and walked toward the spare room. The door creaked. Then silence. It was worse than fighting. When morning came, the ache in my chest felt like punishment for what I couldn't say out loud. I tiptoed to the other room, pushed open the door slowly. Logan was there, shirtless, curled up on the stiff old couch he once swore was harder than rock. His long legs didn't even fit, bent awkwardly with one arm tucked under his head. I stood there, wrapped in the same flannel shirt, watching the rise and fall of his chest. He looked tired. Like someone still waiting for something that might never come. And I hated it. Hated the way I'd pushed him there. Hated how I missed him even when he was 10 feet away. I closed the door quietly. I knew what he was doing. He was pulling away. And the worst part was, I was letting him. Logan had already left, his presence lingering only in the smell of eggs and toast and the plate he'd left out for me. He hadn't waited for me. I sat at the table in his empty silence, the toast going cold on my plate as I opened the little box John had given me yesterday. A silver bracelet. Delicate, detailed, with tiny engraved stars. Beautiful. There was a folded note tucked beneath it. I recognized his neat, confident handwriting.
Be mine?
My stomach twisted. I closed the box softly, holding it for a second like it might give me an answer. But it didn't. It just sat there quiet and shiny and innocent, unlike the mess inside me. I didn't have time to overthink. I shoved it into my bag and headed to work. The grocery store buzzed as usual, cash registers ringing, carts rattling, kids crying over candy bars. But John stood near the loading dock, waiting, as if he'd been counting minutes since I walked in.
You opened it?
He asked, like a kid waiting for a reaction. I nodded. Yeah. His eyes brightened.
So what's your answer?
I swallowed hard. My palms felt sweaty. I need to tell you something first. I looked around. Can we talk? Somewhere private? He led me into the back office, closing the door gently behind him. I'm not who you think I am, I said, before I lost the nerve. I'm not Tyler's daughter. I never was. I'm not from money or any kind of fancy family. My family lives in a trailer park outside Asheville. My dad's a mechanic. My mom cleans houses. John blinked but said nothing. I pushed on. I didn't mean to lie. You thought I was someone important, and I didn't correct you. I needed this job. There was a long silence. My heart pounded against my ribs so loud I thought he could hear it. Then John smiled soft, slow, and kind.
Juliette, you should have told me. but I still would have hired you. Hell, I probably would have hired you faster. Rich girls don't usually know how to mop aisles or stock freezers without whining.
I let out a breath I didn't even know I was holding.
So is that a no to the bracelet?
He teased, half joking. I gave him a small smile. It's a yes. I guess I'm saying yes because you were kind, and I don't know what that means yet. He nodded, understanding.
We'll figure it out.
But something inside me wasn't at peace. The moon was already climbing when John offered to drive me home. His voice was casual, a little too casual.
Come on, Juliette. I'll drop you. Just tell me where you live.
I hesitated. Logan's voice still echoed in my head, rough with emotion from the night before. But I nodded, stuffing my phone into my bag. All right, thanks. The SUV hummed through the winding back roads, the headlights slicing through a wall of misty darkness. The deeper we drove into the woods, the more isolated the world became. Pines lined the narrow road like sentinels, their branches heavy with dew and secrets. I leaned my head against the cool glass window, trying to still my thoughts, but Logan's voice, his touch, his everything echoed too loud in my heart.
We're almost there.
John said, one hand steady on the wheel, the other resting loosely in his lap. His forest green dress shirt was rolled to the elbows, his sleeves flecked with flour from the bakery, and his hair was still damp from the sudden rain earlier. I nodded, distracted. The trees were getting thicker, the road narrower. Something about the silence here didn't feel like peace. It felt like a warning. That's when the engine gave a low sputter. John frowned and glanced at the dashboard.
What the hell?
The car coughed once, then twice, and died. We rolled to a slow, gravel-crunching stop in the middle of nowhere. I sat up. Don't tell me we're out of gas. He exhaled, checking again.
Okay, I won't tell you.
Seriously?
Seriously.
He leaned his head back against the headrest, sighing.
Damn, I thought I filled up after delivery. Must have slipped my mind.
I pulled my coat tighter. The air had grown sharp, cold. And then I noticed there was no birdsong. No crickets. Just the stillness of the woods holding its breath. I whispered, "Something's wrong." John looked at me, suddenly alert.
You feel that too?
And then I saw them. Men, dozens of them, emerging from the shadows of the trees, silent, eyes glowing faintly amber in the dark, circling the SUV like a ritual. John's hand reached for mine.
Stay close. Don't run.
One by one, the men began to shift. Their shirts split down the seams as bones cracked and reshaped, jaws lengthening, claws stretching out from their fingers. Bones snapping in rhythm as fur exploded from their skin. Wolves. Not just any wolves. These were organized, controlled. I grabbed the door handle, heart thudding, but there was nowhere to run. Just as one of the wolves lunged. A roar split the night. A white wolf, massive and furious, tackled the attacker midair, slamming him to the forest floor. It was Logan. My breath hitched. He tore through the circle of wolves with lethal precision, his black fur slick with effort, his eyes glowing with rage. One after another, the wolves fell back, bowing their heads. One shifted back into human form, tall, muscular, and bare under the moonlight. His voice was respectful but firm.
"We don't mean harm, we came with a message."
Logan, still half-shifted, growled low. The man continued, glancing at me.
"Your father is dying, Alpha. He wants to see you. And he asks that you bring the woman you love. He's ready to bless the union."
My heart stopped. John looked between us, stunned.
Wait. What?
Logan turned to me, human again now, his chest heaving, his face unreadable. Rain mixed with sweat on his brow.
Juliette,
The beta stepped forward, reaching out.
"She must come with us.
No.
Logan snapped, stepping between me and the man. His voice cracked like thunder.
Leave her. She's not going anywhere. I'll go. Alone.
Logan, I whispered, my voice trembling. He turned to me, his eyes clouding with tears.
Take care of yourself and stay happy with John.
And just like that, he stepped into the woods with the pack, vanishing into the darkness like a ghost swallowed by fate. The silence that followed was brutal. John placed a hand on my shoulder, steadying me.
You okay? Okay.
But I wasn't. Because even though he was gone, every heartbeat I had still belonged to Logan. The room felt colder without him. I shut the apartment door behind me, the echo ringing a little too loud in the silence. Logan's jacket still hung on the coat hook. His boots were by the door. But he was gone. And the absence hit me like a weight to the chest. I stood there for a moment, letting it ache, letting it settle into my bones like rainwater soaking into cracked earth. I missed him. Even after everything, the tension, the confusion, the moments we never said enough, I missed Logan. The days blurred after that. I threw myself into work at the grocery store. John's place had its own kind of rhythm: early morning deliveries, regulars who chatted more than they shopped, and aisles that always needed straightening. I learned to stock shelves by instinct, ring up items with a smile, and anticipate John's needs before he even asked. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, familiar, and every time he passed by, brushing close or flashing that crooked smile, it felt like I belonged, at least for a little while. He brought me orange tea on rainy mornings, remembered I liked lavender in my drawer sachets, and always looked at me like I mattered. He was steady, patient, gentle. He took care of me when Logan stepped out, or maybe it's more honest to say, after I pushed Logan away. He was solid in a way that made the chaos quiet down. He had everything a woman might want in a husband, and maybe everything I thought I was supposed to want. It was easy. John didn't ask questions. He didn't make me feel like I had to earn his affection. He just showed up, every damn day. So when he asked me to marry him, it wasn't a surprise. He didn't kneel, no roses, no ring box. Just us in the quiet of the loading dock after dinner, the stars out and the crickets singing.
I know this might be fast.
He said, rubbing the back of his neck, his voice low and steady.
But I'd regret it if I didn't say it. Will you be mine, Juliette? Officially?
I stared at him, heart thudding in my chest. He wasn't a wolf. He wasn't haunted. He wasn't the kind of man who would run off into the woods with a snarl and a secret. He was here. Grounded, real. My voice shook, but I nodded. I need to talk to my father first. That night, I curled up on the edge of the bed that still smelled faintly like Logan's cedar cologne, and called home. My father's voice cracked with age and kindness.
John?
He asked, surprised.
The boy with the grocery store?
Yes, Daddy. There was a long pause, then a sigh.
You've always had a wild streak, Juliette. But if you say he's good, if he makes you happy, then yes, you have my blessing.
I wiped a tear off my cheek and whispered, "Thank you." I hung up and stared at the ceiling, heart racing with the kind of calm I hadn't felt in weeks. But still, Logan's name sat like a stone at the bottom of my thoughts. John was what I needed. But Logan, he was what I'd never stopped wanting. Still, tomorrow I'd say yes to John. Because maybe wanting wasn't enough. And maybe stability deserved its own kind of love. One by one, the men began to shift. Their shirts split down the seams as bones cracked and reshaped, jaws lengthening, claws stretching out from their fingers. Bones snapping in rhythm as fur exploded from their skin. Wolves, not just any wolves. These were organized, controlled. I grabbed the door handle, heart thudding. But there was nowhere to run. Just as one of the wolves lunged. A roar split the night. A white wolf, massive and furious, tackled the attacker midair, slamming him to the forest floor. It was Logan. My breath hitched. He tore through the circle of wolves with lethal precision, his white fur slick with effort, his eyes glowing with rage. One after another, the wolves fell back, bowing their heads. One shifted back into human form, tall, muscular, and bare under the moonlight. His voice was respectful but firm.
We don't mean harm. We came with a message.
Logan, still half-shifted, growled low. The man continued, glancing at me.
Your father is dying, Alpha. He wants to see you. And he asks that you bring the woman you love. He's ready to bless the union.
My heart stopped. John looked between us, stunned.
Wait, what?
Logan turned to me, human again now, his chest heaving, his face unreadable. Rain mixed with sweat on his brow.
Juliette, I.
The beta stepped forward, reaching out.
She must come with us.
No.
Logan snapped, stepping between me and the man. His voice cracked like thunder.
Leave her. She's not going anywhere. I'll go. Alone.
Logan, I whispered, my voice trembling. He turned to me, his eyes clouding with tears.
Take care of yourself and stay happy with John.
And just like that, he stepped into the woods with the pack, vanishing into the darkness like a ghost swallowed by fate. The silence that followed was brutal. John placed a hand on my shoulder, steadying me.
You okay?
But I wasn't, because even though he was gone, every heartbeat I had still belonged to Logan. The room felt colder without him. I shut the apartment door behind me, the echo ringing a little too loud in the silence. Logan's jacket still hung on the coat hook. His boots were by the door. But he was gone. And the absence hit me like a weight to the chest. I stood there for a moment, letting it ache, letting it settle into my bones like rainwater soaking into cracked earth. I missed him, even after everything, the tension, the confusion, the moments we never said enough. I missed Logan. The days blurred after that. I threw myself into work at the grocery store. John's place had its own kind of rhythm: early morning deliveries, regulars who chatted more than they shopped, and aisles that always needed straightening. I learned to stock shelves by instinct, ring up items with a smile, and anticipate John's needs before he even asked. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, familiar, and every time he passed by, brushing close or flashing that crooked smile, it felt like I belonged at least for a little while. He brought me orange tea on rainy mornings, remembered I liked lavender in my drawer sachets, and always looked at me like I mattered. He was steady, patient, gentle. He took care of me when Logan stepped out, or maybe it's more honest to say, after I pushed Logan away. He was solid in a way that made the chaos quiet down. He had everything a woman might want in a husband, and maybe everything I thought I was supposed to want. It was easy. John didn't ask questions. He didn't make me feel like I had to earn his affection. He just showed up, every damn day. So when he asked me to marry him, it wasn't a surprise. He didn't kneel, no roses, no ring box. Just us in the quiet of the loading dock after dinner, the stars out and the crickets singing.
I know this might be fast.
He said, rubbing the back of his neck, his voice low and steady.
But I'd regret it if I didn't say it. Will you be mine, Juliette? Officially?
I stared at him, heart thudding in my chest. He wasn't a wolf. He wasn't haunted. He wasn't the kind of man who would run off into the woods with a snarl and a secret. He was here. Grounded, real. My voice shook, but I nodded. I need to talk to my father first. That night, I curled up on the edge of the bed that still smelled faintly like Logan's cedar cologne, and called home. My father's voice cracked with age and kindness.
John,
He asked, surprised.
the boy with the grocery store?
Yes, Daddy. There was a long pause, then a sigh.
You've always had a wild streak, Juliette. But if you say he's good, if he makes you happy, then yes, you have my blessing.
I wiped a tear off my cheek and whispered, "Thank you." I hung up and stared at the ceiling, heart racing with a kind of calm I hadn't felt in weeks. But still, Logan's name sat like a stone at the bottom of my thoughts. John was what I needed. But Logan, he was what I'd never stopped wanting. Still, tomorrow I'd say yes to John. Because maybe wanting wasn't enough. And maybe stability deserved its own kind of love. The coffee shop buzzed with quiet life, soft jazz playing through the speakers, the hiss of steamed milk, and the smell of roasted beans thick in the air. I sat near the window, fingers wrapped around a warm ceramic cup, watching the late morning sun try to burn through the clouds. A weak attempt like the way I'd been trying to convince myself I was okay. The bell above the door chimed, and in walked Adira, wind-chapped and flushed, her honey-brown curls pulled into a high ponytail, eyes sharp as always. She spotted me immediately and slid into the seat across from me without saying a word. She didn't sugarcoat.
You look tired,
she said. I blew on my coffee, trying to act unfazed. Work's been non-stop.
Right,
she said flatly, pulling off her gloves.
Grocery store glamour?
I gave a half smile. John says business picks up when I'm around. Adira leaned back, folding her arms.
Juliette, you didn't call me here to talk about shelf-stocking romance.
I sighed, staring out the window like the answers might be out there. I'm getting engaged, I said. She didn't flinch. Just blinked slowly.
To John?
I nodded. Adira stared for a beat, then leaned in.
Why?
My throat felt tight. Because he's stable. He's kind. He offered me something real. After everything with Logan, I needed that.
You needed that?
She echoed.
Or your family did?
I hesitated, then looked down at my hands. I wanted the job, Adira. For my dad's meds. For the bills. For the life I promised him I'd protect. Her eyes softened, but her voice didn't.
Logan would have protected it too. He's the damn alpha, Juliette.
I looked up at her, my voice sharp. He wasn't then. He was pretending to be a company man.
A famous quote fits you.
She cut in, not unkindly.
I'd rather cry in a Lambo than on a bus.
I clenched my jaw. It wasn't that simple.
It never is,
she said.
But you're still choosing John. You don't love him.
My mouth opened, but no words came out, just air and regret. I rejected Logan, I said finally. I told him I didn't want a life with him. How do I turn around now and say I do? Adira stared at me for a moment, then smiled, but it was a sad one. She straightened, slung her purse over her shoulder, and looked at me with those big, knowing eyes.
You're making a mistake, Juliette. Don't let pride steal your future.
With that, she walked out, the bell jingling softly behind her. I sat there long after my coffee went cold, staring at the foam ring inside the cup, heart thudding in that hollow space where certainty should have been. I should have felt relieved. I was doing the responsible thing, marrying the man who wanted me, who could give me stability, but all I felt was cold. And somewhere, in the middle of a crowded cafe, with sunlight painting the hardwood floors, I realized. You can't build forever with someone whose name your soul doesn't whisper when it's quiet. And mine still whispered Logan. The second I stepped back into the apartment, I knew I wasn't okay. My heels clicked too loud on the hardwood, and the silence stretched too far. The echoes of Adira's words followed me inside like ghosts.
You're marrying a man you don't love,
she had said, her coffee untouched, her voice as calm as a lake that hides storms beneath. Now back home, I clutched the kitchen counter like it could ground me. Logan's jacket was still draped over the bar stool. His scent lingered, cedar, smoke, and something heartbreakingly familiar. I closed my eyes, breathing it in like I could inhale a life I never let myself have. but I couldn't run to him. Not now. Not after all this. The engagement hall was draped in warm lights and autumn garlands. Everything looked perfect. I wasn't. John stood at the front in a tailored navy suit, smiling like he owned certainty. I was the opposite of certain. My dress hugged too tight around the chest, and every step toward him felt like walking through molasses. My parents arrived just in time. My mom's eyes lit up when she saw me, and she gripped my hand tight as if she could still pull me out of this. But I smiled. I smiled because that was easier than explaining what was really happening. John took my hand and slid the ring onto my finger. His touch was gentle, familiar, safe. The hall clapped. Photos flashed. And my heart broke in a place I didn't even know it could. I barely made it through the congratulations before I felt a wave of nausea hit me like a truck. My hand flew to my mouth and I rushed down the hallway, heels skidding against tile. Mom was behind me in a heartbeat.
Juliette? Honey, are you okay?
I could barely answer. My stomach lurched again. The doctor arrived 15 minutes later, summoned by my mother's fear. He was older, calm-eyed, the kind who had seen every version of human panic. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, hands gripping the sheets. John stood beside me, rubbing my back. My mom sat on my other side, trying to act like she wasn't praying silently. The doctor smiled gently after examining me.
Juliette, you're pregnant.
The world spun sideways. For a second, I couldn't hear anything over the sound of blood rushing through my ears. Pregnant? I whispered. Mom gasped, tears springing instantly to her eyes. John went still. I looked up at him. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. But he didn't say anything, he just left. I knew whose child it was. Logan. The memories flashed quick and raw. The way his hands trembled when they touched my skin. The way he whispered my name like a vow. The night he said he couldn't pretend anymore. And I let him go. The ring on my finger felt like it belonged to someone else. I stood, legs shaky, as if my body knew before my mind did that I couldn't stay. Not in this lie. Not when a heartbeat that wasn't mine had already begun.
Juliette,
She said, softly.
it's John's child, right?
I didn't answer. My lips parted, but nothing came out. My eyes stayed locked on the chipped porcelain in front of me. Mom's hand tightened.
Juliette,
She said again, her voice firmer this time.
I asked you something.
My knees buckled slightly as I turned toward her. No, I whispered. It's not his. Her face didn't crumple or react, not right away. She just blinked, like the truth had taken a second to land. It's Logan's, I said, louder now. It's always been Logan's. I pushed him away. I lied to myself. I thought I could bury it, that I could choose safe over love. Mom sank onto the edge of the bed.
Oh, sweetheart.
Tears welled in her eyes as she reached for me. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing harder than I had in years, like the truth itself cracked something wide open inside me. I didn't want to burden you and Dad, I cried. You needed help. The meds, the house, the bills. I thought John was stability, and Logan, he wasn't even working full-time back then. She cupped my face, wiping the tears with trembling thumbs.
Juliette,
She whispered.
we never asked you to give up your happiness for us. Not like this.
I know, I breathed, but I did. Her voice trembled, gentle and full of love.
You need to talk to Logan. And John, too.
That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, Logan's old flannel still hanging in my closet. I took a deep breath and dialed John. He answered on the second ring.
Juliette,
He said warmly.
I was just about to.
I have to tell you something, I interrupted, voice low and steady. I should have said this before, but I didn't. I don't love you, John. Silence. The kind that stretched and cut deep. He finally exhaled.
But the engagement.
I agreed because I thought it was right. You're stable. You're kind. And I told myself I could grow into it. But I never moved on from Logan. I never wanted anyone else. Another pause. I could hear the pain he wasn't saying.
You chose me because I was safe.
He said quietly. I did, I admitted, voice cracking. And I'm sorry. That wasn't fair to you. He sighed.
At least you're honest now. That matters. I hope you find what you're looking for, Juliette. I really do.
After the call ended, I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my phone, my hands still shaking, and called the only number I really wanted to. He picked up instantly. You're going to die, I blurted.
What?
You're going to die if you keep acting like you don't matter to me, Logan. He didn't say anything. I heard him inhale sharply, like he'd just been punched. Then the call ended. I panicked until 3 minutes later, I heard a knock on the door. When I opened it, Logan stood there out of breath, rain in his hair, chest rising and falling like he'd sprinted across the city. His clothes were damp, his jaw clenched, but his eyes, God, those storm blue eyes locked onto me like I was the only thing holding him to the earth.
You said I'd die.
He said, stepping inside.
You think I haven't been dying already?
I didn't wait. I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him hard, desperate, messy. He kissed me back like it was the last thing tethering him to this world. I'm pregnant, I whispered against his lips. It's yours. He pulled back, stunned, his hand drifting to my stomach.
Mine?
He breathed. I nodded, tears streaking down my cheeks. His arms folded around me tightly.
We'll raise this baby together.
He said, voice rough with emotion.
You, me, and no more pretending.
The next morning he came with me to my parents' house. My dad opened the door, and Mom stood behind him, both of them looking like they already knew. When Logan stepped forward, strong and steady, something in my father's face shifted. Logan extended his hand and my dad took it.
We're not just pretending anymore.
Logan said quietly.
I love your daughter. I always have.
My mom wiped away a tear.
We knew.
And just like that, the tension in the room lifted. My parents welcomed him with open arms like they'd always known this was how it would end. We left that evening. Logan's hand wrapped around mine as we drove toward the woods, the sun dipping low behind us, casting gold across the trees.
You sure about this?
He asked, glancing over at me. I nodded, my other hand resting over my stomach. For the first time in a long time, yeah, I'm sure. We didn't need titles or ceremonies. We didn't need grand gestures. We just needed each other and the love that had always lived between us, even when we tried to pretend it didn't. And as I leaned my head against his shoulder, I knew this wasn't the end. This was our beginning.